got a running mate here, hasn't he?
Let's see if this thing don't. You want to say something, Sugar?
She doesn't think so. But Amy, as you can see, is Miss Pee Wee Majorette of Arkansas. And she asked if she might have her picture taken with me this evening wearing the Winthrop Rockefeller Brit uniform. And Hubie is going to take our picture together, and I'm very, very proud to have that picture taken. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Ray, indeed, for the kind introduction. I must admit that sometimes the Lieutenant Governor and I feel like a two-man crusade when you realize that at the state capitol, except when the General Assembly is in session, we are the only two Republican elected officials in the state capitol. And we do feel a little lonely on occasions. I hope you folks are going to help us take care of that situation this coming year. Back in 1964, we were learning a lot about the two-party system, about how to try to organize, how to talk to people, how to work with people, and we learned a lot. As a matter of fact, I think my opponent in 1964 learned a lot. He learned so much that the last month of that campaign, he got out and he visited every courthouse in the state of Arkansas. Practically killed him. But ladies and gentlemen, when I ran for office, I made you a promise, and I've kept that promise. I said, when win wins, win will return. And in 1967, we did something that I don't think any other state government ever did before. Your governor, in the bus that you see somewheres here, that says Governor Rockefeller for governor, is pinch hitting now as a campaign bus, but it also says over the door, the governor's traveling office. And we visited the 17 regions. We had an opportunity to meet with people, most of the time smaller groups than this, but we figured that we met with over 23,000 people in those 14 trips. There are hundreds of you in this audience tonight that can't afford or don't have the means or the way to go to Little Rock and talk to your governor or your commissioners. My opponent says he's going to be there all the time, available to you. I say to my opponent, the governor's business is where the people are. He refers to me as an absentee governor because I'm not sitting in that chair, I guess, dispensing patronage, because that's what he is used to. I must admit I have had a few of my Republican friends think that maybe I didn't understand the meaning of the word patronage. But I made a sacred promise to the many career workers in the state of Arkansas in 1966 that those that were loyal, conscientious, and able should feel secure in their jobs. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that we have replaced more than, say, 400 or 500 out of the 1,400 or 1,500 employees across the state. I think that there are a great many of the people who worked in the state are proud of the fact that this year, neither your supervisor nor by mail has anybody solicited a campaign contribution for my campaign. Your job in government, just as your job in industry or any other place, should depend upon your ability. And you should have security in that. And I am a great believer in that philosophy of life, not only in government, but in business and in industry too. Some of you may have seen the, quote, debate that I had with my opponent last night on television. There were some very interesting things came out of that particular debate, discussion. It was really a presentation on the part of each of us of our position in terms of the state of Arkansas and what we saw in terms of the future of the state of Arkansas. It's probably lucky that it wasn't a debate, because as I told my opponent afterwards, if he'd only sent one of his aides to my office, I could have given him accurate figures about what's going on in Arkansas. And for some strange reason, he got mad. He thought I was being rude. But who should know better than the Commissioner of Welfare or the Governor that at the present moment, this year, and in 1967, we have got 10% more welfare clients, and we have got 25, well, it's almost 26% more money that is being distributed to welfare clients across the state. There are some who have come to me and who have obviously come to him and suggested that their welfare checks have been cut. Now, the truth of the matter is a very simple thing. The federal government recognized the burden in dollars and cents on the individual states in terms of the growing welfare problems. And so all those who were on Social Security had a 13% increase, and it was the intention of the federal government that that $13 increase would be deducted from the state and give the states the opportunity to broaden their programs. So when somebody comes up and says, my administration has cut, that is not true. I was one who campaigned for further increase in our welfare benefits. And while I was out talking to the people of the state of Arkansas less than a month before the election, my predecessor quietly gave a $10 increase. Now, we couldn't manage the extra 5 this year or last year, because we are still absorbing the 10 and the 2 that was given in the last year of the previous administration. I'm proud that we have been able to hold our own, because the previous administration had not planned for it. And talking about planning, we come today to an election on November 5th, and the knowledge that we have within the administration of the problems of the state, of their cost, of the needs, is clearly defined to us because I went to the legislature and asked them to create an administration department. Even as of this minute, and we've been working almost a full year, I could not tell you how many people were on the payroll in the state of Arkansas as of Friday night. That's a heck of a way to run a business, isn't it? When you don't know how many people you've got working for you as of Friday night, and there's no way to find out. Our state is so fragmented. But now, with the Department of Administration, we are getting figures, we're getting them promptly, we're making plans for the future, and as we go into this campaign further, for instance, we will be talking about education. I have talked education from the very day that I came to the state of Arkansas. We want to keep our wonderful young people here with us in Arkansas and help Arkansas grow. But if they haven't got the educational tools, they cannot compete with the ever-increasing, more complicated industry and job opportunities. And therefore you come to a very interesting situation, which is dealing with this part of the state of Arkansas. The Farmers Union has been working with the problem of those who have been relocated off farms as a result of not only the minimum wage, but mechanization. They did not have all of the facilities enabled to enable those of you who have been displaced to train for another job. I went to Washington on 2 different occasions. This is one of my absenteeisms that my opponent keeps fussing about, and got $2,300,000 to start a program of retraining the hardcore unemployed. I am proud to say that that money was designated for the 16 counties along the Delta River, the Delta area. So some of you may have been exposed to this program already. Others of you will be exposed to it later. I think it's a great opportunity for us not only to help those who want to hold their families together, but it's an opportunity, too, for them to help their children as they're going through school. This is exciting for the future. Somebody else has made reference to the fact that my opponent's family has been employed by the state. I find his memory very poor, because it was he that called it to the attention of the people in a press conference. He said, "I suppose the Rockefeller people are going to point a finger." I hadn't said a word, ladies and gentlemen. And then he goes to Jonesboro earlier this week, and 1/3 was attacking me for shaking my finger at the fact that he had employed members of his family. The only thing that I've said when this information was published in the paper at his own suggestion was that I felt sure my opponent would want to make a full explanation to the people of Arkansas about how many, what age, for how long, for how much money. Have any of you heard? I haven't, and I listened. Then he made another remarkable statement last night. We were talking about education, and after we talked about prison reform, he accused me of a good many things, like the fact that we have, since I have been in office, granted something around 1,800 paroles. And he makes you believe that this is the most awful thing that ever happened. I'll guarantee you nobody paid a nickel to any of my administration for any of those paroles. One of my aides had a rather amusing experience when a man came to him quite embarrassed. He said, "I've got $1,000 here to give to somebody in connection with the parole. But," he said, "I'm embarrassed because my client has already been paroled. And who should I give this money to?" And my aide suggested that he give it back to his client, who probably badly needed it in his rehabilitation after he came out of the penitentiary. All people of the state of Arkansas, a scandal like $3.25 million of savings just disappearing. No, we do not. And I can assure you that as long as I'm your governor, we're going to conduct this government on the basis of law, order, justice, and morality. Had we had morality, had we had respect for the law, you'd never have had an Arkansas loan and thrift situation. If we'd had within the structure of government people who believed in law and order and justice and morality, you wouldn't have the 14 insurance companies that are now in receivership, where we are trying our level best to save and protect the policies of over 200,000, many of you probably sitting in this audience. We've gotten rid of that kind of thinking where we tolerate these irregularities because they've always been tolerated. If you always eat too much, or if you always sleep too late or something else, that doesn't justify it because you've always done it. And we have so many things in government that are exactly the same way, like elections. Year after year after year, county after county after county have conducted fraudulent elections. I have spent considerable of my own resources fighting in my own hometown with one of the 3 M's, Marlin. In that county, I have won, the 2 times that I have run, by the bodies that were capable of going to the polls. But I have been defeated both times by the absentee ballot box. Those bodies couldn't go to the polls. Many of them never will be able to go to the polls. And you know what I'm talking about. We went to the court, we proved everything that we set out to prove. And the judge said, yes, these people are guilty of what you say they are, of irregularities in connection with the election. But what's new? It's always been done this way. And then he went on to say, I don't believe that any of these people that you are accusing of having broken the law in connection with the elections profited personally. And then he thought a minute longer, and he said, actually, these people should be commended because what their actions were really accelerated the election process. Case dismissed. Now, is that what we want? Do we want our courts to say, because we've always done it that way, that this is all right? If we don't like our laws, let's test them in the courts.